Honorable Amin Ali, Minister of Social Protection, Honorable Dr. George Norton, Minister of Social Cohesion, Honorable David Patterson, Minister of Public Infrastructure, Honorable Catherine Hughes, Minister of Public Telecommunications, Honorable Dominic Gaskin, Minister of Business, fellow young people. Next time I'll come with my hat so you all won't laugh when I say young people. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, of course, I'm very happy to be here, and unfortunately, I have to follow an excellent cultural presentation, which reminds me of how unique we are. It's something I call Guyanese-ness. I don't think you can see a show like that anywhere else. Thank you very much for that presentation. Today, we have a very important cultural event in this Youth Caucus. You, the young people of Guyana, are essential. You're vital to the nation's progress. In fact, these ministers here, where they're going, they can't take the country with them. They have to leave it for you. And that's why we're here, because we have to bequeath this country to you. You have to inherit this country. It is imperative, therefore, that you should be afforded every opportunity to participate in decision-making and in determining how your communities and how the country should be administered. You are the future. This Regional Youth Caucus brings together young people from all 10 regions. The geographical span of today's caucus attests to the expanse and the diversity of our country, which you celebrated in your cultural presentation. Guyana geographically is a continental country, but as I like to say, it is a continental country with Caribbean characteristics. It is a country of relatively large regions by Caribbean standards. And some of our regions are larger than even certain global states. The Berima-Waini region, for example, is bigger than Fiji. The Suriname region, Region 2, is bigger than Brunei. The Essequibo Islands, West Demerara region, is bigger than Luxembourg. The Demerara-Mahaica is twice the size of Mauritius. Mahaica-Berbice is bigger than Antigua, Barbuda, Barbados, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines combined. East Berbice Quarantine is bigger than Belgium. The Cuyuni-Mazaruni is bigger than the Netherlands. Pataros-Siparuni, Region 8, is bigger than Kuwait. The Upper Takatu, Upper Essequibo, Rupununi, is bigger than the Republic of Costa Rica in Central America. And the Upper Demerara-Berbice region is bigger than the Bahamas. We have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot to be proud of. We're the largest Caribbean country, bigger than Cuba, bigger than Puerto Rico. And each region is different. No two regions are the same. And we are proud that the Essequibo Islands, we are proud of the coastline, the flat, muddy coastline. We are proud of our highlands. Ayangada is over 2,000 meters. We're proud of our savannas. We're proud of our swamps, where you have some unique biodiversity, including our national bird. It's actually a swamp bird. You have to go to the swampy areas of the Kanji to find the Kanji pheasant. You have to go to the rainforests to see some of our unique frogs and our eagles. Our rivers, the Essequibo River is over 1,000 kilometers long. In fact, if you went in a straight line from here for 1,000 kilometers, you'd reach Nevis. That is the length of our Essequibo River. So we have a beautiful country, a bountiful country. And this biodiversity must be protected, must be preserved for all time. We must not allow it to be damaged. We must not allow the ecosystems to be destroyed. It is part of our national patrimony. We inherited it from our forefathers, and we must pass it on to you. You will inherit this land, and we must not destroy it. And when you get it, you have to preserve it and protect it, to pass it on to your children too. The regions are economically and demographically dissimilar. 90% of the country's population and most of the commercial, agricultural, and manufacturing enterprises are located on a coastline, which accounts for only 7.5% of our territory. These regions contain bountiful farming, fishing, forestry, and of course the hinterland regions contain much of our mining resources. And next year, you will witness our first oil and natural gas production. So we have the resources, the human resources, like you, and the material resources. But these resources have to be managed sustainably to ensure that everyone, particularly our young people, could enjoy the good life. These are the resources which you will inherit today and which you must hand over tomorrow to your children and for generations to come. Today's adults are merely trustees, and we must protect this trust. We must protect the wealth of this country, what we have discovered and are exploiting, and what we have not yet discovered. But you, the young people, one day, very soon, must bear the responsibility of managing this patrimony, managing our valuable resources. Our country's expanse, its diversity, its bountiful resources, and its low population density, however, present challenges to good governance. A strong state administered exclusively from the center, as in the colonial era, will not achieve the good life for all. A prosperous country cannot be built on the foundation of the denial of democracy to people in rural and hinterland areas. This country is in transition to becoming what we call a green state, which will put increased emphasis on the protection of our environment, on the preservation of our biodiversity, on the promotion of renewable energy, and of the adoption of practical measures to ensure climate adaptation. You can see around the world the damage that climate change is doing in the Arctic and Antarctic areas, the spread of desertification, the fact that a lot of agricultural areas are being destroyed, farmers are flocking to the cities, and there's a huge shift in demography as people are leaving rural areas, people are leaving farming communities, cattle are dying, and life is in jeopardy. Our environment provides services necessary for the Earth's survival. The Earth actually depends on us. Our environment is not only a source of food, but also freshwater supplies, materials for shelter, and medicinal products. It provides vital environmental services, such as the regulation of the water cycle, water quality, and pollination. Guyana's forests capture and store carbon, thereby mitigating the greenhouse effect. So other countries, industrialized countries, generate carbon, but our forests could absorb that carbon. We look to you, therefore, to become stewards of this important environmental asset. We look to you to help to organize your communities, to continue the efforts to protect our wildlife. Although some people like manatee pepper pot, I understand. The manatees are more important and more valuable alive than in the pot. We need you to ensure healthier and cleaner and safer neighborhoods, and to promote the development of green tongues. The former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, once said, and I quote, "A society that cuts off its youth cuts off its lifeline." And your government is interested in ensuring that young people become a lifeline of this country's economic, political, and social transformation. The state, and these ministers represent the state in some part. The state must support young people to help them to assume greater responsibility and to prepare them to bear the burdens of leadership. This country, if it is to prosper, and if young people are to be given the opportunity to lead, must adopt a fresh approach to governance. And today, let us start that debate on this fresh approach to governance, which involves young people much more in the future than has been the case in the past. The emphasis must be on reinforcing the four stones of youth development: education, equality, empowerment, and employment. Your government, for this reason, has pursued a strategy of regional development. And that is why today, you, the 300 of you who are here in this hall, have not come from one region, but have come from all 10 regions. Our aim is to develop all 10 regions, not one or two. Each region needs a center. Each region needs a capital for more balanced development. Guyana is not two countries, one east of the Essequibo, one west of the Essequibo. One with roads and bridges and highways, and the other without roads, without highways. This Essequibo, I told you, is 1,000 kilometers long. There's not a single bridge on our longest river. And the Essequibo, unfortunately, creates the impression that we are two countries. And we are trying in our policies, in our public infrastructure, to develop the aerodromes, to develop the highways and bridges, as you can see in the newspapers in the Western Essequibo. Only today's newspaper you can see an improved bridge in the Berlima-Waini region. And I'm sure many of the other regions would like to get that quality infrastructure. So we have a deliberate policy of developing not one or two regions, but all of the regions. We are not two countries, as I said. And for this reason, the government, in the first 3 years in office, introduced 4 new tongues. Some of you grew up not realizing that many of our regions are not governed or administered by tongues. But now, every hinterland region is governed, administered by a capital tongue. The Brima Waini now has a tongue-with-a-tongue council in Mabaruma. The Kuyuni Mazruni now has a tongue at Bartica. The Potaro Siparuni now has a tongue at Madhya. And the vast Rupununi, bigger than Costa Rica, as I said, has a tongue with Lethem, a mayor and a tongue council, just like Georgetown, just like New Amsterdam. So under this government, the regions are becoming more equal. And in time to come, as you grow up, we will all be able to boast that there's greater equality among the 10 regions. Not one developed and the other bush, but all of the regions will be developed equitably. And we've done that, or we've started that path, or that in only 3 years, our first 3 years in office. So, in giving each one of the regions a capital tongue, we will ensure that public services are more efficiently delivered to all of our citizens wherever they are. We see in the future, every region must have its own aerodrome, its own banks, its own courts, its own factories and hospitals, its own art galleries and museums, its own newspapers. We've already embarked on a program of providing radio stations for the first time in these regional capitals. Sometimes you can go into a region and not hear anything because there's no television, there are no telephones, there's no radio. But it has started to happen now because we have a regional public broadcasting system. You could go to Aishalton, you can go to Lethem, you can go to Mabaruma, you can go to Bartica, and you can now hear a regional radio station. So we're becoming more equal. In time to come, I hope that we'll have sporting stadiums, we'll have other amenities, so you no longer have to leave your region to get a passport or to register your business. You can stay within your own region, and in time to come, you could just move your mouse and transact business with the government, rather than have to travel to Georgetown. Some people, unfortunately, in the past, had to leave their region to go to court, and they got lost in the court system. Sometimes they're there for 3 or 4 years. People say, where you come from? So we hope to bring that to an end. Every region should have the capacity to generate employment opportunities for its young people by attracting investors, encouraging commerce with the Caribbean and neighboring countries and other parts of the world, and by developing thriving business districts. The Minister of Business is here. We're going to develop business districts in all of our regions. Industrial parks. The Minister of Public Infrastructure is here. He's thinking about developing highways and bridges and bustling stellings in the riverine regions of this country. We want the regional capitals to assume the authority and to have greater responsibility for their own development. And it is for this reason that within the first 3 years in office, this government held local government elections twice, when the previous government hadn't held it for over 20 years. It's not whether you win or lose, it's whether the people of this country have the right to elect the people, the officials who will govern their regions at the level of the municipalities and the neighborhoods. So we are promoting the participation of people, and I was happy that so many young people came out last November to participate in the local government election. That is where the leadership starts, this is where the apprenticeship starts, when you get involved at the local level in elections. But this is not a political forum. This is a forum for the development of yourselves and your regions. So, my friends, you are vital to ensuring that we have a strong nation, but through building strong regions, strong neighborhoods, strong communities. The establishment of capital towns and the renewal of local democracy countrywide go hand in hand, and they are the engines of transformation and economic growth. Young people, therefore, must prepare themselves to work in the engine rooms of local, regional, and national development. Government exists at 3 levels: at the neighborhood or village level, at the municipal level, at the regional level, and at the level of the central government. So it is good that you should enter at the local level, and eventually you'll go up to the regional level. And when I come back, you'll be sitting at the central government level alongside Minister Dr. George Norton, Amna Ali, and Dominic Gaskin, and standing next to Minister Cathy Hughes and Minister Patterson. That's where it starts, at the local level. So don't miss out on your apprenticeship, because that's how you get here in the front row. You too must be prepared to defend your birthright, our national patrimony, against external threats. Our main hinterland regions all have borders with foreign countries, with neighboring countries. The border with Venezuela, largely with the Berlima-Waini region, where strangers are coming over, is nearly 800 kilometers long. The border with Brazil is over 1,100 kilometers. The border with Suriname is nearly 900 kilometers long. These borders have to be defended by all of us. And as I look around, some of you are fit to participate in that form of territorial defense by joining the Guyana People's Militia and by participating in the National Cadet Corps, and if you wish, maybe in the Defense Force. And yesterday, I was at Kuru Kuru. We have launched the Guyana Youth Corps, although that will not be involved in defense. It is a way that you could be involved in development and by helping to populate some of those border areas. You constitute over half of our population. 1 in every 5 citizens is between the ages of 15 and 24. You cannot be ignored. If anybody tries to ignore you, they'll put the development, they'll put the future of this country in jeopardy. You are the ones to help to bring about change. You're the ones who possess the imagination to innovate, to initiate, and to invent. I can tell you, old people can't put on a show like that we saw a few minutes ago. This comes from youthful energy and enthusiasm. I could have tried that 50 years ago, but I won't try that now. But my friends, you must be trained and empowered to assume the role of leaders. It would be reckless for the older folk to expect young people to lead simply by trial and error. You can learn only when the state strengthens the foundations. As I mentioned earlier, that foundation is based on education, employment, empowerment, and most of all, on equality, so you can see one another as equal citizens. And this is the foundation that will support and sustain your leadership. Some time ago, the report of the Caribbean Community Commission on Youth urged, and I quote, "In order for youth governance to be effective, it must provide opportunities for young people to become empowered and to make a contribution to development through participation in decision-making, generally, but more specifically on matters in which they have an interest and which affect them." Youth empowerment can strengthen the competencies of leaders, can sharpen their talents, and harden their resolve to allow them to assume the responsibility of leading others. Education always is the basis of such empowerment. And the training of young people itself is an act of empowerment. The training of our youths is necessary if they are to be instruments of their own self-actualization and development, and if they are to be architects of the destiny of this country. Your government since 2015 has been enhancing educational opportunities for our young people. It has awarded over 1,500 scholarships to students drawn from every administrative region as part of our policy to provide education and training to young people. Your government is empowering young people by involving them in decision-making in the neighborhoods and villages and at the regional and national levels. It is listening increasingly to the concerns of young people, and I hope that this is not the last caucus. We want to hear more from you, not only here on the coast, but in the regions from which you come. More important, it is empowering young people economically by making available opportunities for employment and entrepreneurship. Youth empowerment will help to equip our young people with the skills, attitudes, and values which they need to become leaders. These attitudes and attributes could be inculcated so that when placed in positions of leadership, they could cope successfully with its demands. But youth involvement must not be seen purely in governmental terms, but it must be seen also in cultural expression. And the cultural performance we saw a few minutes ago is an example of the role that youth could play. There must be more done, and I admit that as leader of the government, to ensure that there's adequate opportunity for cultural expression in art, in dance, in drama, in literature, and sports. These activities encourage healthy interactions with other young people. They boost self-confidence and self-esteem and promote social cohesion and social cooperation. And my job, and the job I had previous to this one, that is leader of the opposition, these things change, you know. One day in opposition, next day in government. But going around this country, you develop experience of all of the regions. And I mustn't be biased, I must be fair. But I was particularly moved. I was immensely impressed by going into the Cuyuni Mazruni, particularly in Upper Mazruni. Anybody here from Upper Mazruni? Nobody from Mazruni? No? Waramadan, Jawala, Kako. But every year in August, I go to the Upper Mazruni. And what I see there is something called the Upper Mazruni District Games. And you have young people coming from as far as Purima, Kaikan, and the other villages, Waramadan, Kaika, Jawala, Kamaran, participating for 1 week in games. And around there's no stadium, around the field you'd see the flags of every village. And many of these villages walk sometimes 1 or 2 days to come to the games. And then they have fun. They play games, not for money. You see them in all sorts of uniforms. Sometimes you don't know if you're looking at Barcelona or Manchester United, but they have uniforms. But it's magnificent. And they do this with their own resources. And I just imagine if you could do this in Region 6 or Region 4 or Region 1, a dozen villages could just come together and have their own sporting competition for a week. Except Saturdays, of course. Many of them are 7 days Adventists. But here we have young people participating in sports. And this is something which I think helps to build the cultural resolve of our nation. And young people, like yourselves, should be given every assistance to help to develop this type of cultural activity. Not only sport, but as I said, drama and dance and literature. Involvement in the work of social, non-political, self-managed clubs and non-governmental organizations also could serve as an apprenticeship for you. Don't believe you have to belong only to political organizations, the GYSM or the PYO. But you can form your own clubs. You can belong to other non-governmental organizations, which also help you to learn to manage clubs, to preside over meetings, to manage finances, so that when you take official positions, you would have served your apprenticeship. You would have learned the skills which are needed for teamwork, for managing groups and organizing events. Helps to develop your social responsibility. One of the problems young people face, and it's a problem of which I spoke yesterday at the launch of the Guyana Youth Corps, is the problem of unemployment. And we have developed a policy of ensuring that every child can get to school. And that is one of the reasons why I have with me my Minister of Buses and Boats. There's only one person laughing, Minister Amnali is laughing. No, this is serious. Again, in my campaigning, going up the Pomeroon, I discovered there were children who were not going to school because they couldn't afford to pay for the boat to take them to charity where their school is located. So they stay at the farm. Sometimes they lose out on education. In one case, a child in West Coast Berbice at a village called Trafalgar had to pay $5,000 a week to go to Berbice High School. And we decided that every child should be in school. And that is why on my birthday, I launched the program of the 3 Bs, in which we provided buses, boats, and bicycles for children. It is now called the Public Education Transport Service, so that everybody within the public education system could get to school. And right now, there are 29 buses on the roads. Big buses, not mini buses. Big buses. And children don't pay $1. I don't suppose some of you have ever seen $1 anyway. to use these buses to go to school. We've distributed over 1,200 bicycles free so that children could ride to school. And as you said, land of many waters. We have here forests and all types of diamond waters. But every major river now has a school boat. Berbice River has a school boat. Kanji River has a school boat. Pomeroon River has a school boat. Demerara River has school boats to take children to school, because we believe that every child should have access to go to school. And this is one way of combating unemployment, to make sure that children can get to school and get that education. Now, education is influenced massively by information technology, and that is why Minister Cathy Hughes has pioneered the Public Telecommunications Ministry, bringing information technology to more and more schools, almost by the month. Computers are now becoming more important, have now become more important than blackboards and chalk. So you in the education system must be able to learn the tools of modern business. So unemployment in years to come should be a thing of the past. We should be able to eliminate employment. Once you go to school and stay in school and don't drop out. Once you drop out, unfortunately, the chances of being employed become very remote. You go for a job and people say, what experience you have? When did you leave school? Why did you leave school so soon? At age 12 or 13 or 14? Because you got a baby or because you couldn't afford transportation. This is very serious. You have to stay in school, qualify, and these are means by which you can avoid unemployment when you grow up. So you must look forward to becoming a generation of entrepreneurs, of pioneers, who seek and succeed in finding new economic opportunities. Your government is promoting job creation through self-employment. It is catalyzing opportunities for youth entrepreneurship so that you could become self-employed. And that is one of the reasons why we have launched the Sustainable Livelihood and Entrepreneurial Development Program, SLED, which was launched in this very hall. That's one of the reasons why we have the Hinterland Employment and Youth Service, and now we have the Guyana Youth Corps, because we think of youth and we want youth to succeed. The Youth Corps, which was launched yesterday, aims at ensuring that young people can be equipped with the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to become productive adult citizens, and which will provide them and their families, while at the same time improving lives and livelihoods in their communities and villages. You, therefore, should be able to rest assured that the government will continue to work with you to develop your talents to enable you to provide the leadership that Guyana needs. We would like to create a cadre of youth leaders in every region, young people who are committed to developing your region, including providing jobs. We remain resolute in encouraging the promotion of youth entrepreneurship. This is critical to eliminating inequality and to reducing unemployment. You are not to blame, but we all have to work together. We have to create training opportunities in order to develop your skills and talents and to utilize those skills for the development of yourselves and your families, your communities, and your countries. I end by going back to where I started. The future of this country is in your hands. The state will continue to lend a helping hand but it is your hands which must seize the opportunity which is being provided. You must not be afraid of leadership. You have an invaluable contribution to make to society, particularly in your neighborhoods, your villages, and your regions. You possess the exuberance and enthusiasm and the energy to make a positive contribution to national development. It is my sincere wish that this caucus will help to inspire you to go back to your regions and your villages and your communities to provide the quality of leadership that this country needs, this country deserves. Thank you, may God bless you all.